Welcome back to the channel, YouTube. Splitting Wigs back with another video. In this video, I want to go over what it's going to be like to have a AMD Radeon 5700 XT going forward into 2022. Yes, I can't believe it's already 2022, but will this card hold up in the coming year? Stick around to find out. Okay guys, the first thing we're going to do is run through some of the most common games that people are going to be playing going forward into 2022. And keep in mind, these are some of the most stressful games that there are on the market. So if this card will hold up and work well in this environment, you know that it's going to work for most other games as well. Now, real quick about my PC. Cooling is good. I got 6 fans. I have a Ryzen 7 and has a good motherboard. It's a good PC. So to keep that in mind, just buying a GPU, sticking it into something that it doesn't have quite a great power supply, or it's lacking in some other parts, you may think it's the card. It's other parts of your PC that are giving you trouble. But anyway, so let's jump into some of the games that we got going here. First off is going to be Rebirth Island, playing Warzone. As you can see, I'm holding 100 frames pretty easily here, and my settings, if you know my settings from my channel, guys, I never go for max frames and stuff like that. I'm usually more of a quality over quantity. So I'm still holding like 100 frames here, and that's pretty solid, to be honest. This game is difficult to run. It's definitely known to be difficult to run. So anyway, let's just jump into Warzone next. All right, guys, as you can see here, the frames per second took a little bit of a hit, bouncing between like 75 and 85. Now, keep in mind, this was right after the last big update that added some underground bunkers and stuff like that, and people were having issues. Now, I did run this test again. I'm still around like 80 frames for Warzone, but still, I mean, I'm rocking pretty high quality graphics and still holding 80 to 85 frames pretty easily on this big giant map. And when you get down closer into smaller areas like this, you can see the frames do go up a little bit. So anyway, I definitely think that, judging by this, because this game is probably the most stressful game to run, I definitely think this 5700 XT, if you can find it at a decent price, is going to be awesome in 2022. Anyway, let's jump into some Halo. All right, guys, now here is my in-game Halo gameplay. I have the graphics turned up again pretty high. The game runs incredibly smooth. I don't have my frames per second overlay on for Halo. However, I am easily getting 95 to 105 frames playing Halo, and that's with the graphics. I don't even really have them adjusted that much. I actually have them on high settings, and the game looks excellent. The frames are good. Anyway, let's get into our last game, which is Battlefield, and then we will get into some of the playability and things like that, and we'll go over a benchmark test here. Alright guys, here's my Battlefield gameplay. Unfortunately, I still am having trouble with my controller, which is a known issue for all Battlefields and Origin and things like that, so I can't get my controller to work, so don't mind the gameplay. However, still rocking 80 to 90 frames, 75 frames sometimes playing, on a 5700 XT playing this game. And so, as you can see, frames per second on these big titles that just came out is still decent. And like I said, I am not playing on bad graphics, guys. I keep the settings turned up. You can always back settings down to get more frames if you want more frames. And on top of that, there's actually AMD settings that I run that hurt frames per second because I go with quality over quantity. So keep that in mind. Anyway, let's start talking some stability and crashes and things like that. All right, guys, if you're still watching the video, thanks a lot. Please drop a like. It helps out the video and the channel an awful lot. And please split the wig on that subscribe button and find your way back for quick fixes, gameplays, any sort of help for any big first-person shooter. Please subscribe to find your way back for more content. Anyway, so now what I want to talk about is I play a lot of different games, iRacing, all these first-person shooters. I just showed you all kinds of games, guys. And I have to say, even Overwatch, stuff like that, this card is extremely impressive in my opinion still. It's not a new card. I mean, I have a ton of hours on this doing editing, gaming, watching YouTube and Twitch. Like, this is not a brand new card, and it's still operating extremely well. As I stated before, my PC around it is extremely good, which helps. But as far as crashes and things like that goes, it's not out of the ordinary. I mean, AMD gets a bad rap for their drivers and stuff like that, but for big titles like what I play, there's always driver updates. They've done a great job in my opinion, and I think if you can find this card at a competitive price right now, it's worth the price to get you through at least another 2 years, I would say. I really do think that, and because the reason I think that is because the 5700 XT and the brand new AMD 6600 that they just came out with are very, very similar. And AMD dropped that card and is selling it as new, and the performance is almost identical, to be honest. So believe me, I think a 5700 XT is a great card going forward. Now let's get into this benchmark. All right, guys, let's see what the benchmark test says about this card, and just take this with a grain of salt, because this has been in here for a long time. This card released in Q3 of 2019, and what they wrote up here is true for almost all AMD cards. And the one thing you'll notice with most big YouTube channels and most big websites and stuff like that, AMD usually gets a lot of hate, and I think it's a little bit misrepresented because you know, they are a little bit of a budget card, so they are going to take a little bit more work, and they're not going to be as plug and play for, say, as like a nividia card. But anyway, let's see what they say here. Out of the box, the 5700 XT has high burst speeds, but under load it overheats and drops frames, and you know, it kind of gets a bad rap for that. The rest of this read is very brutal on the card, to be honest, saying that it's bad for gaming and stuff like that, which to me is crazy, like, to say that, to be honest, because this card for its time was excellent, and the fix that's here is easy. Like, if you come to even a channel like mine, I'm telling you how to fix this for each individual game. You can find it in 2-3 minutes. Fix this for your card. It's well known now. AMD cards like to be undervolted and just turn down a little bit. You turn up the, you know, in mine, what I do is I boost up the amount of power from the power supply. I turn the fan speeds up. I underclock the card, and then it tells you here to lower the clock a little bit. That is not hard to do. That is not you don't need to be some computer engineer to do that. The interface that AMD gives you is super simple to do that with. And the card runs cool, plays excellent. It doesn't crash like inordinately amount. You know, so, you know, let's get down to some of these speeds here. As you can see on the bench, it does an outstanding bench, even for now. Like, it's honestly, like, you start comparing this card versus some of the cards, you know, this card is not far behind a 3070, and it is about the same as a 3060 Ti, to be honest. It's, I might get some hate in the comments for saying that, but I'm telling you, this card is competitive still. It is not bad. As you can see, like, you know, if you go through these, you can see that this card is still solid. You know, everything is rated outstanding still. But just for instance, we're going to do something here real quick, because this is where you really get a notion of what you're buying if you're still looking at this card. 3060 Ti. Okay, so a 3060 Ti right now, it is a little bit better on certain fronts, and it ranks 21st. The 5700 XT ranks 34th. But am I going to go out and even at MSRP buy a 3060 Ti to pick this up? I'm not. I mean, 18%, 14%. Overwatch. Now, that's a driver issue, because AMD is known for not having as much support for drivers. So a lot of this stuff you're going to see is going to be driver related usually. But for the big titles, I mean, they give tons of support to what I've showed you so far. As you can see, the card is going to look a little bit better, you know, and you can overclock. That's known. That's a known thing, like that, you know, Nvidias are going to react better to an overclock. But right now, with the way cards are priced out, I'm never going to give up the 5700 XT right now. I'm just not going to splurge for that expensive of a card. And even for what they're getting for 3060 Ti's to pick up this much performance, I'm not doing it. And if you can save about $200-300 or something like that, or, you know, even $400 sometimes by picking up a 5700 XT used over buying a 3060 Ti, I would suggest that in 2022. And anyway, I hope you got something out of the video. If you did, let me know in the comments below. Splitting Wigs out. Catch you on the next one.